Hello, my dear friends. I have I don't know if you call it sad duty, but I have the duty to inform all of you of a very simple fact. The President of the United States of America is a pervert. Understand what I just said. The President of the United States of America is a pervert. Now, you just don't say something like that without backing it up.
When James Carville goes after Donald Trump, it's not a clash, it's a demolition. The political assassin tears apart Trump's polished persona, flipping it inside out and revealing a man driven more by ego than power, remembered more for chaos than leadership. Carville doesn't just call out Trump's flaws, he etches them into memory, stamping him as a tired rerun nobody wants to see. And for a man obsessed with legacy, nothing cuts deeper than being exposed as irrelevant.
Dramatic here, but at 1 o'clock on the 17th of January of 2024, I raised a question and pointed out that they were red splotches on Donald Trump's hands, and that could be professional, a sign of syphilis, a venereal disease, a tertiary syphilis, and which can have profound effects if not treated.
James Carville doesn't just go after Donald Trump. He carves him up like a veteran surgeon who's treated this case before and knows exactly where the decay begins. Trump may sit in the Oval Office as President of the United States, but to Carville, he looks less like a commander-in-chief and more like a walking warning sign, wrapped in red ties and orange spray tan. When Carville strikes, he isn't looking to leave bruises. He's crafting scars that never heal.
So Trump has gone out of his way to tell us he's a pervert. He's talked about, this is very difficult, I hate to bring this up, but we got to do this. His youngest daughter, I think her name was Tiffany, and was fantasizing about her breasts when she was...
From the opening shot, Carville rips into Trump's obsession with image. For a man who never stops preaching strength and dominance, his entire persona is nothing but smoke and mirrors. Carville mocks the absurdity of a president who measures success by crowd sizes and TV ratings instead of the actual work of governing. In Carville's telling, Trump's presidency isn't about leading a nation, it's about starring in an endless vanity show, where policy always takes a back seat to applause.
This is a supplement to what I just did, because I think I brought up a really, really important point here. And, you know, sometimes you always have to evaluate the conclusions you drew because maybe they were erroneous conclusions. And so one of the things that we know for sure is Donald John Trump stinks. In other words, he smells like...
The Louisiana-born strategist wastes no time painting Trump as a cartoon of political dysfunction. Every move he makes, Carville argues, comes from the insecurities of a man desperate for validation, yet allergic to responsibility. It's as if Trump is forever auditioning for the role of president in his own mind, while the nation is left watching the blooper reel. Carville twists the knife with this imagery, warning that when history is written, Trump won't be remembered for achievements, but for the chaos trailing in his shadow.
Then he talked on Howard Stern about having sex with his oldest daughter. Come on, man. I'm not that sheltered. I'm 80 years old, all right? I've been around the world once. I've been to Arkansas twice. I've seen and heard a lot of shit in my life. I have never, ever heard of anybody fantasizing about having sex with their daughter. You're a pervert.
Carville has a gift for tearing into Trump's business myth. He delights in reminding people that Trump isn't a self-made mogul, but a man cushioned by inherited fortune, rescued by bankruptcies, and hooked on branding instead of results. To Carville, Trump's empire isn't a shrine to success, it's a museum of failure,
polished with gold-plated illusions. And the notion that this man actually built his way to the presidency? Carville calls it the greatest con of them all.
Fiasco in Canada, where there was a G7 meeting, and of course he can't stay because, frankly, they don't give a shit about him anymore. He was not the center of attention. And then he holds a press conference with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of which he has some empty pages that are blowing in the fucking wind that don't have anything.
Carville doesn't mince words when it comes to Trump's political style, or the lack of it. True leaders build coalitions and solve crises, but Trump builds feuds, feeding on division like an arsonist on fire. Carville mocks the absurdity of a president who treats Twitter rants like policy, calling it performance art disguised as leadership. The roast cuts deeper when Carville highlights Trump's thin skin. For a man who brags toughness, he crumbles at the slightest jab, quick to dish insults, but quicker to wallow in self-pity when hit back. To Carville, the irony is priceless. A man desperate to look like a lion, yet always acting like a wounded house cat.
This man is repetitively, publicly fantasized about having sex with underage females. He was actually asked, well, what age limit you wouldn't go before? And I think his consensus number was 12. Yeah, that's right. Look it up. That's what he said. So again, I'm not being Clarence Darrow or Louis Brandeis or something. It's a division against interest.
Carville rips into Trump's toxic relationship with the truth, or his allergy to it, painting him as the first president whose routine could pass for a game of two truths and a lie, minus the truths. From inflated wins to outright fabrications, Carville ridicules how casually Trump lies, so much that even fact-checkers gave up. Trump doesn't spin reality, he replaces it with whatever fantasy flatters him most. And the real punchline is his followers cheer it on like delusion itself is policy. Carville skewers Trump's obsession with loyalty too. Not skill, not competence, just blind devotion, turning the White House into a cult of personality, where flattery was currency and doubt was punished. Less Oval Office and more reality TV boardroom, where everyone feared being fired. And when it comes to rhetoric, Carville laughs at the idea Trump will be remembered for speeches, pointing out that most presidents left words that inspired, while Trump left rambling monologues stitched together like late-night infomercials. Where Lincoln gave us the Gettysburg Address, Trump gave us word salads, garnished with grievances.
I do not, I guess Trump is human in one sense, in another sense he's not. I really think he is such an odious and despicable man that he should not be accorded the most basic courtesies that one human being would extend to another.
Carville roasts Trump's obsession with grievance politics, mocking how he always plays the victim of hidden forces. For a man in the White House with the world's strongest military, Trump still cast himself as the underdog. Carville laughs at the absurdity of a billionaire whining about unfairness, saying Trump never stopped campaigning as an outsider because he never learned to govern as an insider. On policy, the record is empty. Promises from infrastructure to healthcare collapsed on contact with reality. Carville skewers the empty slogans, weak proposals, and staged photo ops masking the lack of results. To him, Trump's presidency was a wasted chance, 4 years chasing headlines instead of history, leaving a legacy of noise over progress.
I think we have to consider the fact, not the fact, we have to consider the possibility, I want to be very careful with my language here, that Trump is unable to wipe his ass. Yeah, you heard me. It is possible that this man is incapable of wiping his own ass.
Carville's sharpest blow is personal. He portrays Trump not as an agent of change, but as a symptom of America's addiction to spectacle. Trump didn't invent celebrity politics, he just exploited it best. But spectacle burns out. What once seemed bold now feels tired. The rallies, the recycled lines, the same grievances, no longer shocking, just boring. Carville argues Trump has gone from showman to rerun, and nothing kills faster than losing the audience. Even as president, the aura of inevitability is cracked, with loyalists whispering doubts as chaos replaces progress. To Carville, Trump is stuck in the past, endlessly fighting old battles with no vision for the future. That, he says, is the death knell of any politician. Leaders look forward, omen look back. Tragically for his legacy, Trump chose the latter.
Being. I think he is a grotesque, immoral man who is incapable of understanding anything or anybody that's not him. And I'll just be very honest, I cannot stand the son of a bitch. But we've been a lot of people and say you really shouldn't use this language, and I'm trying to think of what can I do to accommodate some of these people, and what I can do is this. I am no longer going to say he can't wipe his ass. I'm going to be...
Carville closes his roast by saying Trump's biggest achievement was convincing people he was more than he is. Strip away the branding, bravado, rallies, and bluster, and what's left is an insecure man whose reach exceeded his grasp. A man who could never live up to his own image, yet forced the nation to play along. To Carville, that's the true tragedy. Not just what Trump failed to do, but how easily people were fooled. In his eyes, Trump isn't just a flawed leader, but a contradiction, parody of power who wanted the title but never understood the job. Once that image takes hold, it's hard to erase. Trump can keep shouting and rallying, but Carville has planted doubt that lingers long after the words fade. The great showman, he says, was only an ordinary man who mistook applause for authority. That's why Carville's takedown works. It cuts deeper than politics. It shatters the very myth Trump built around himself.
Dude, I'm sorry, but to the 10% that said, well, I voted for change, I didn't vote for this, then you are a goddamn idiot. And what my favorite group of people are these Wall Street Trump supporters, these guys worth $6 gazillion. Well, I didn't know he was going to do this. I was surprised that they wasn't thought out. What the fuck has he ever done in his life that's ever been thought out?
By exposing the hollowness behind the brand, Carville strikes Trump where it hurts most, his image. For a man obsessed with perception, nothing stings more than being seen for what he truly is. Carville doesn't just criticize, he dissects like a surgeon who knows exactly where the rot begins. Trump may hold the presidency, but to Carville, he's less commander-in-chief and more cautionary tale in red ties and spray tan. He isn't aiming for bruises, he's leaving scars. From the start, Carville attacks Trump's obsession with image, mocking a man who preaches strength yet builds his persona on smoke and mirrors. A leader who measures success by crowd size and TV ratings instead of governing. To Carville, Trump's presidency isn't leadership at all. It's a vanity project where policy always comes second to applause.
I do want to press you on one thing, and I appreciate that you've criticized the left wing of your party, James. I truly do.
Right,
and I think that you're right when you say leaning into gender identity and pronouns and the feminine nature of the current message of Democrats is a loser. I have to tell you, James, I also think it's a loser to do something that you have done, and that is to constantly equate President Trump to Hitler, constantly equate this to an authoritarian regime. I think you've got to find a positive message and stop hyperventilating over the dystopian future of America.
I don't know, but there's a lot of evidence to say that Trump, shall we say, has a favorable view of some of these things.
Oh, James.
And I will continue to bring it up, and I always appreciate to be on Fox when I can bring it up to Fox viewers so they can judge how admiring that Donald John Trump is of National Socialism. That's fine.
Okay.
The Louisiana-born strategist paints Trump as a caricature of dysfunction, a man driven by insecurities who craves validation but dodges responsibility. It's as if he's forever auditioning for president in his own head, while the nation watches the blooper reel. Carville warns that history will remember not Trump's achievements, but the chaos he left behind. He also slices into Trump's business myth, reminding audiences he isn't a self-made tycoon, but a man cushioned by inherited wealth, bailed out by bankruptcies, and addicted to branding over substance. To Carville, Trump's empire isn't a monument to success, but a museum of failure, decorated with gold-plated illusions. And the idea he built his way to the presidency is the biggest con of them all.
Trump's more ahead than he's ever been. It's going the wrong way. It's not working. Everything that we're throwing is spaghetti at a wall, and none of it is sticking, me included. And, you know, we gotta, try to think of something different, because what we're doing is really
Carville blasts Trump's political style, or lack of it, noting that real leaders build coalitions and solve crises while Trump builds feuds, feeding on division like an arsonist on fire. He mocks the absurdity of a president who treats Twitter meltdowns as policy, calling it performance art, where the joke is on anyone who expected more. The roast sharpens when Carville exposes Trump's inability to handle criticism. For someone who boasts toughness, he is fragile to the point of parody, quick to hurl insults, but collapsing into self-pity when hit back. It's political glass jaw syndrome. He talks like a heavyweight, but one jab sends him spiraling into rants about unfair treatment. To Carville, the irony is perfect, a man desperate to look like a lion, but always acting like a wounded house cat.